The first reading I have is from Hebrews 10:24 through 25. And let us consider how to provoke one another to love and good deeds, not neglecting to meet together, as in the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. The second reading is from Romans, the first chapter, 11 through 12. For I long to see you so that I may share with you some spiritual gift, so that you may be strengthened, or rather, so that we may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith. Both the Hebrews and Romans texts center on the importance of a faith community, which plays a big part in the story. On December 2nd, 1977, yes, I'm dating myself, after a long shift of waitressing at the Ground Round, a colleague suggested we go to the bar for a glass of wine. As we were sitting there, the bouncer, who I'd never met before, came and sat with us and we started talking. A year later, on December 2nd, 1978, I married that bouncer, the love of my life, my soulmate, Mark Curtis. I had grown up in a Missouri-centered Lutheran church, attended Sunday school, was in the children and youth choir, active in Luther League, attended confirmation classes, and was confirmed. I always felt a pull to church, and even when I stepped away from the Missouri-centered church, I attended other churches with my grandmother and friends. Faith was a big part of my life, and I always felt surrounded by a faith community. Mark grew up in a family that did not attend church and wasn't introduced to a church until he joined the Boy Scouts. The pastor of Bethel Lutheran in Wilmer just happened to be the troop leader and was someone Mark looked up to and respected. All of the other boys in the troop were going to confirmation classes, so wanting to be part of that community, Mark joined them. He was baptized and confirmed on the same day, and that was his introduction and involvement with the church. Mark, being highly intelligent, very scientific, and on the spectrum, always struggled with the concept of faith, God, and Jesus most of his life. In fact, when we first met, he was a die-hard atheist who went to great lengths to make sure that I and everybody else around him saw that his views on the subject of religion were the correct ones. I chose the Roman text because I felt one of the reasons I was able to stay strong in my faith while being bombarded by Mark's atheist views, which were very strong and sometimes valid, convincing points, was because of my faith community, something Mark unfortunately didn't have after leaving the Boy Scouts. Before having children, I told Mark that raising my children in the faith was something very important to me. And yes, once they had grown, they would have the choice to stay in the faith community, any faith community, or leave. Mark was okay with that and joined us often at church. Again, wanting to be part of the community is strong. He still struggled with his faith. One day he would say, "How can anyone not believe?" as he looked out on the flora and fauna he loved and enjoyed so much. And then in the next breath saying, "How can anyone believe these fairy tales in the Bible?" He would come to church and sing with such passion that it brought many of us to tears, and then turn around and question the validity of God and his word. In one breath, he would be upset with the time I put into church, but then again, he would be sitting out in the 90-plus degree heat grilling brats for fundraisers so RLC kids could go on mission trips, or be up all hours of the night cutting out stuff from one of Sandy's and mine passing on faith activities or some Sunday school project I cooked up. The struggle was real, and it really bothered him. He wanted to be just like others and just believe. He tried talking to so many different pastors and lay people, but often ran into problems because he questioned their beliefs, something so many really didn't appreciate. Because he was always struggling and questioning, this kept him at arm's length from the faith community he really wanted to be a part of. When I met Mark, he was a strapping 6'4", 285-pound powerhouse with incredible endurance and strength. He had been an athlete in high school and still enjoyed playing volleyball and softball. Looking at him, no one would have ever expected the health challenges he would face throughout his life. When he was 25, He was misdiagnosed with degenerative arthritis of his hips. 10 years later, we would find out, with a little help from God, the correct diagnosis, which was actually spinal stenosis, and significant permanent nerve damage had already been occurred. Mark endured 3 back surgeries, but every time they go in and remove the bone overgrowth and attempt to free up nerves in his spine, it would grow back with a vengeance, eventually leading to great difficulty in standing and walking and being in constant pain. Ask me sometime about how God intervened to finally get him the correct diagnosis, and again, how he helped me find the doctor who would do Mark's third back surgery. Mark always credited me with finding the right doctors and asking the right questions, but it wasn't me, it was God. He also battled strep A, the flesh-eating bacteria, diabetes, which he cured himself within 6 months with diet and weight loss, cardiomyopathy, kidney disease from the heart medications, and prostate cancer that had metastasized. Each one of these trials Mark met with humor and grace. There were a few times when the medical community was sure that he wasn't going to make it, but he always fought back. I was so sure he was going to keep on fighting and outlive us all. Even when Mark came home on hospice Christmas Eve day, he told the nurse he was going to be her longest living hospice patient, and I was sure he was going to be too. Until, on February 6, 2023, at 7:20 in the morning, I watched the love of my life take his last breath. I was devastated is an understatement, but I was also at peace because Mark was at peace. How can someone who struggled so hard with his faith be so at peace when it came time to die? The answer is God. About a year before he died, God came to Mark in a dream. Mark asked God who he was, and God said, "I am." At that instant, Mark knew. He knew who God was and what he was capable of. Mark wasn't afraid of death. He knew where he was going. Mark needed a community, and God gave him one. I pray that everyone feels accepted by and are willing and able to be part of this faith community that God has given us. Thank you.